Welcome to Nimble Minds Talks of Self and Spirituality, where we talk about different philosophical perspectives as well as spiritual practices. And I also just add in topics and talk about things that I know can bring different perspectives, new insights, and just make you ask questions as well as make myself ask some questions. So, with this video, like pretty much all videos on this channel, is going to deal with the temptations, okay? It's going to deal with resisting the temptations, okay? Understanding the temptations. And not only that, but there is going to be a focus on, in this video, isolation once again. So this is going to be a part 2 to talks of isolation. And then I'm going to be touching on some points, right, that are very important as we get into that. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So starting with isolation, right? Talked about in the last video, and I'm touching on it again in this video. It's important to have your periods of isolation because it allows you to reflect on what you want out of life, and not only what you want out of life, but it allows you to further cement any views you have. And if you're not in the stages or processes of cementing any views you have on the world, it allows you to further explore the views you may have on society, different customs, different norms in society, okay? And then not only that, but the way you want to approach society, okay? And that's just some of the reasons it's important to have your periods of isolations, okay? And then it also helps you deal with the temptations. Once again, that's a very important topic. Lying, gluttony, deceit, envy, jealousy, okay? Greed, lust. Okay, lust is a big one, but all of those, it helps you deal with those temptations. Now, when it comes to periods of isolation, there's another thing about it. It takes patience, okay? And I'm going to stem into other things from this, but it does take patience. Why does it take patience? Nimble minds, nimble minds. Why does it take patience? Eventually, you said in the other video, these periods of isolation is going to happen naturally. Don't force it. You're absolutely correct. Continue. Okay, well, don't force it. Then what do you mean I have to be patient? It's going to eventually happen. Great question. The thing is, when these periods eventually happen, there's a process where you have to either accept the person who's in the mirror. Not only the person who's in the mirror, but the person you're going to be alone with. You may not have a mirror. The person you're alone with, do you like that person? Once again, fortunately for me, I love that person. Thank God for that, okay? Thank the earth, thank the universe for that. But there's some people who may not like that person. And they're going to have to put an effort to understand why they don't like that person. Because maybe they don't like that person because of deep-rooted issues they've had, okay? And they just don't understand how they can appreciate their own company, their God-given company, okay? And stemming from that, that's why you're going to need patience. Because even if you don't like the person you're with, it's going to take time to understand why, and then eventually, hopefully, get into the stages that you love that person as you're with. And even if you do like the person that you're with, it's going to take time to, okay, understand why do you even like this person? Understand these characteristics. Understand that, oh, okay, this is the person that I enjoy being with, and this is how I can now approach the world. This is how I now view the world, okay? This is how I now approach isolation, how I approach time by myself, doing hobbies I enjoy, okay? Now, we're going to go into patience. And once again, this parts of isolation takes patience, but there's another aspect of this, okay? And once again, when I talk about these topics, it's not to offend anyone. Because once again, on this channel, it is about taking things that you can apply to your life that result in a positive change. But I do have to touch on this. Once again, I am a melanated person. When it comes to people, they may not identify as black. That's okay. They may not identify as African. That's okay. A lot of people are like, aren't those constructs? You're absolutely correct. That's okay. But what people cannot deny is melanin. What people cannot deny is their skin. Okay. People can't deny that. And a lot of times people have been tricked, okay, into believing that some parts of their skin are not valid. Okay, especially melanin people, especially people who don't understand the gift from God that they have with this melanin skin. There's people who don't accept it, okay? And nimble minds. How do we go from talks of isolation to talks of melanin appreciation? Once again, nimble minds, how do we go from talks of isolation to melanin appreciation? Simply is because these things take patience. Okay, accepting yourself for who you are takes patience. Okay, and this is one aspect of it, and I talk from this aspect of it, from being melanin, because that's what I am. But there's other people out there who may not be melanin. They may have lighter skin, they may be white. Okay, and they may have struggles. They may have struggles, believe it or not. Okay, they need to accept themselves and need to have patience with themselves. But going back to the focus on the melanin people, once you take these times to not only just periods of isolation, but understand yourself, thus you can understand the world and things going on and the history, timelines of the earth. You understand there is and has been a concerted effort to get people to not be comfortable with their melanin skin. There's products out there that people use on their face and body to lighten their skin. People that are melanin, okay? Nimble minds, nimble minds. Why is this important? Why does it carry any weight? Amazing question. Okay, this goes into the temptations. People will be tempted to not accept themselves. People will be tempted to want to change themselves and their appearance that was given to them by God. People will be tempted, okay, to give into envy. Why do you want lighter skin? Is it because you don't accept who you are? People will be tempted to give into jealousy. Why are you lightening your skin? Is it because you don't understand the gift that you have, which is the melanin? Okay, and that's what it goes into. People have to understand that things take patience. And that's one of those things, back to the talks of the melanin, okay? There has been and there is concerted efforts to get people to not like the melanin they have been gifted. It is all around us, okay? And yes, when it comes to issues that make you not want to accept yourself, they're all around us. But also there are positive things, the truthful things out there that do allow you to be grateful for the gift from God that you have. And you just have to take that time. Okay, that's why I advocate for periods of isolation, because you're going to have to take that time to research whatever it is you're interested, to research some history, to research some things so you can get an understanding. Whether you're light skin melanin, dark skin melanin, so you can get some understanding of who you are and that you need to be grateful, appreciative of the gift that you've been given. Okay, let's talk about temptations. Me personally, this is a story most people can understand. And once again, I don't personally subscribe to any type of religions or anything. This is just something I'm using because it's a common thing people can understand. Adam and Eve. Serpent goes to Eve, okay? Temptation, that's all that is for me. It's a temptation. Serpent's trying to convince this person to do something they don't need to do something that's really going to take from them and who they are, okay? That's what that is to me. Just keep it simple. So there are going to be serpents out here, whether that's with people. There are going to be serpents out here, whether that's within the media that you see. There are going to be serpents out here, whether that's within the energy contained within people around you, whether that's the energy contained within conversations, whether that's the energy contained within social media, whether that's just the energy contained with the consequences of the, wars, and not only that, but just the circumstances that have happened on this earth, okay? There will be serpents. But it takes the person, okay, and sometimes the individual to have these periods of isolation to understand that you have to accept yourself, okay? We'll get back more into the talks of the isolation and temptations, but I'm going to keep touching more on melanin topics right here, and then after I touch on them, we will get back into those conversations. So let's continue. Once again, and this is why I say patience is important, because when you hear topics like this, there's no reason to get upset, even though some people will get upset. It's no reason to start trying to point fingers and be angry, even though people will point fingers and be angry. It's no reason to become condescending and get your feelings hurt, even though people will become condescending and have their feelings hurt, okay? It's a time to try to learn something, try to gain some insight so you can actually do actions that change things for you, okay? So let's get back into it. When it comes to the history of melanin people, we understand amazing people. We really are. Melanin people are amazing people, beautiful people, great people. But with the concerted effort that there has been, okay, that can be lost when it comes to slavery. That's one aspect of it, because there's the physical part of slavery, but there's a psychological part of slavery as well. Some people may argue, nimble minds, nimble minds. What's that? I hear you. Nimble minds, nimble minds. There were slaves in Africa. Nimble minds, nimble minds. There were slaves all over the world. Nimble minds, nimble minds. Can you please explain that? Of course. Great question. When it comes to things like slavery, that's one aspect of it. But when it comes to things like slavery, yes, there was a time where there was slavery all over the world, but people have to understand that was more of a type of indentured servitude. Was there mistreatment? Yes, of course, but it was an indentured servitude where you will work for me, okay? And after you work for me for X amount of time, you will get your own resources. You will even get your own land, maybe your own farm to work. When slavery got to America, it became about discrimination. That is the difference. It became about, because you look like this, because you are this person, you can't do this. That's the issue, okay? That's the problem that it gets into, okay? That's when it becomes a bigger problem. When you have people murdering, killing, slaying people for the color of their skin, that's when it becomes an issue. When you have people holding out prejudices deep down that cause them to act a certain way because the color of someone's skin, that's the issue, okay? That's when it becomes an issue. There are a lot of atrocities, a lot of hordes of slavery, 400 plus years. 400 plus years, okay, that have happened. Can't deny it. It's in the history books, not just history books. It's just around us. If you do any, it's there, okay? These things have happened. Does that mean you have to be a person who gets bitter over it? No. Does that mean you have to be a person who all of a sudden every time you talk about a topic, you're angry and you hate, all types of people? No, absolutely not. And that's where a lot of people miss it, is they get angry. A lot of people miss it because they believe they have to become some type of vanguard, some type of bastion for these things, and you do not. Understanding is one of the biggest things you can do. And once you understand that these things have happened, you can start to do actions and help to change your ways to better the people around you and then affect the bigger picture. That's what you can do, okay? So once again, slavery, that's a thing that happened. That has displaced a lot of melanin people, but even then, melanin people are still strong. Melanin people are still amazing, still very smart, still very durable, okay? Still able to have great careers, still able to start families, still able to be amazing, be creative, and do all these things despite the efforts of people, okay? Not saying all people, but evil people, people who could not understand that because someone has a different perspective and lives differently than them, that's okay. Okay? Let's keep going into it. Once again, I'm going to stick with some of these melanin topics. Then I'll get back into the topics of isolation and temptation, and we'll continue and end it there. Once again, okay, people need to understand melanin is a gift from God. There's nothing wrong with you because you're Black, African, and if you don't claim that, there's nothing wrong with you because you're melanin. If anything, everything's right with you, I would argue, okay? And people get caught up in the different things. But that's part of the game plan, is to get lost into, oh, wait, no, you're here. No. That's not the point. Okay? Once again, where's another effort in music? That's just a big one, because music is great. I really do believe music is great. But sometimes there are certain artists that are pushed by just mainstream media that promote things between melanin people, people who look just like each other. Okay, and is there accountability? Yes. Where's the accountability? Well, there are people out there who are actually doing these things who are melanin, so they need to be held accountable. Absolutely, I 100% agree. I just advocate that people understand and look past the smoke and mirrors and understand the larger game plan that is at play, is that these people, most of them don't just get here by accident, okay? A lot of these influencers you see that are pushing certain agendas, whether that be you need to gangbang, okay, in order to be accepted. You need to talk a certain way in order to be accepted. You need to walk a certain way in order to be accepted. You need to dress a certain way as a melanin person to be accepted. You need to have a certain attitude as a melanin person to be accepted. Those people are against you, is what I'm telling you if you're a melanin person listening to this. Those people are not for you because they're trying to put characteristics and they're trying to put attributes and requirements to being melanin, which is not a thing. Okay, melanin, as people are melanin people, they're free. They're creative people, okay? They're everything they already need to be. And if they can understand that and nourish that, they'll be perfect and they'll eventually see that, okay? So that's something people need to understand. You don't need to change who you are. You need to nourish who you are and make sure you still keep it respectful. Make sure you still handle just basic life things, okay? But music's a big thing. They have you thinking you need to dress a certain way, talk a certain way, okay? And you have people of other cultures that see that. And at the end of the day, people actions speak louder than words. People will say they hate on certain things, and they probably do hate it, but at the end of the day, a lot of people try to copy that. A lot of people try to mimic the melanin culture. It is what it is. That's just how it is. A lot of people try to do that, okay? And you could say it was with other cultures as well, people that like other cultures, sure. Because it can be like a respect thing, like, hey, I like your culture. That is an aspect of it, okay? I'm just going into the more of the exploitive part of it, okay? Which we have seen plenty of times with melanin people, okay? So when it comes to that, you have to understand that there's these efforts out here to do this, okay, in the media. That's why you have to be careful of the things that you intake. And when you intake these things, I just advocate being aware. You can intake it. You can watch certain things, but just be aware of the messaging. Just be aware of the goal of people who put these things out, okay? Yes, awareness is a great thing. But you have to understand that people have their own internal biases and prejudices. Sure, I could even say me. But I'm simply going off of things I've read and just history, okay? That's what I'm going off of. No emotion. I'm not trying to antagonize anyone. But the results are there, okay? The results are there. So once again, that's another effort. Another thing with melanin people is, once again, you don't have to live the fast life. Slow down. You don't have to live the fast life. Slow down, okay? A lot of people have a certain image of melanin people. They believe that they act a certain way and they like these certain things, which is absolutely false. Which is absolutely false. And those people show themselves instantly, okay? Especially if you're a person who has done your due diligence and just did a little research. Not saying you have to be a bookworm, because you really don't. Maybe if you're a person, really, if you've been around certain people that have, and they shared it with you, you already understand, okay? But you have to be a person that understands people are going to come to you with these internalized prejudices and just false information about a way you behave or you should behave, okay? And that's unfortunate, but that is due to the history of America, at least, right? That's where I'm getting my information from. That's due to the history of America, at least, okay? Once again, in the U.S. Constitution, right? In the U.S. Constitution, when they were making these rules, most black people, right? Maybe there was some people in some secret societies or something, or very upper echelon. I'm not talking about those people, but a majority of black people were not even considered people. They weren't even considered human beings, okay? So when you understand that, and you understand that a lot of the Constitution wasn't necessarily written for us, at least early on with the Founding Fathers, when you understand that, then it gives you some insight, like, oh, okay. So just things like that are things you should keep in mind. Are things that you should keep in mind. There's a lot of false information out there. There's a lot of false information out there. And a lot of people have lived in their lies so long. A lot of people have lived in their temptations for so long that when the truth comes to them, it's blinding. When the truth is something that they hear, they almost cannot believe it because they've been believing something for so long. And when you believe something for so long like that, even if you haven't read it anywhere or backed it up with any facts or anything, it just becomes your reality. And people get comfortable and would rather believe that. Okay? Nimble minds, nimble minds. Nimble minds, nimble minds. What about you? You're saying you're right about everything? Great question. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. When it comes to this channel, once again, I'm not saying I'm absolutely right about everything. I understand I have a perspective, okay? But when it comes to my perspective, I just take both sides of it. And that's helped me a lot. I don't just stick to one side, and I'm not emotional about it. I'm not saying this because I feel some type of way. These are just things that have happened. And they have happened. They can't be denied. People can lie about it and go around it, but at the end of the day, it already happened. So people can, tiptoe around it, do what they want to do. Act like, they don't see it, but it's there. So that's what I advocate for the melanin people, is to understand, take patience for your history, okay? And understand that sometimes it's going to be up to you to do the work. Sometimes it's going to be up to you to understand these things, because it's not for everybody. Not everybody, okay? Not everybody. And this is when it gets interesting, right? Because I do advocate for melanin people, right? I really do. But even some people that look like you, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. So you're going to have to understand that. And you're going to have to be courteous. Yes. You're going to have to be courteous when it comes to certain things like that, because not everybody wants to or is ready for that. Not everybody's ready for that. So you have to be courteous whenever you're learning and you're taking your times of isolation. Now that we have touched on that, okay, melanin people, okay, learning about yourself, learning about your history, understanding that you are amazing, okay, learning that you are not the stereotypes people try to portray, learning that a lot of people try to give into those stereotypes, whether they are melanin or not. A lot of people try to act out these stereotypes because they truly believe this is the way to be. That's not true. Don't be like that, okay? There's a lot of people out there who don't want to accept themselves and the skin color they've been given because they believe that there's something else to gain, more material gain out there than what they've been gifted by God, okay? There's a lot of serpents out there that will try to tempt you into doing things that you need to say no to, okay? A lot of people don't understand they've been in the Adam and Eve situation with the serpents. And I'm not saying it happens once, it can happen on multiple occasions, but a lot of people keep accepting the serpent's offers. A lot of people keep accepting the serpent's offers. It has to get to a point where you're on a streak of denying the serpent to the point where the serpent can't even understand you anymore. The serpent doesn't understand you anymore. The serpent doesn't understand you anymore because you're with the spirit and the soul and you're focused on your goal and you're not giving into temptation, so you can't even manifest that serpent. The serpent's going to be around you. The serpent's going to be trying to get reactions. The serpent's going to be trying to do things around you, but you're so focused, you're on your goal, you're on your mission, you're on your purpose, that at the end of the day you realize that serpent, it ain't worth it, okay? So with that being said, that's to discuss with the melanin people right there, okay? That's to discuss with the people that have melanin. May not classify themselves as black or African, but you have melanin. Yes, you do. So with that being said, let's continue on with the periods of isolation, and then we will get into the temptations, okay? Now with the periods of isolation, for people, they need to understand that these are very important, these periods of isolation, okay? For everyone, because it will allow you to get into just understanding yourself, and that's very important, okay? Because you may be a person who has certain things that you actually enjoy doing. You may be a person who has certain hobbies you enjoy doing, but you're spending so much of your time just around other people. You're spending so much of your time just doing other things, right? That you're not able to give time to things that actually feed your spirit and soul, things that actually are about you, okay? And that's very important. Once again, when I talk about periods of isolation, that doesn't mean you never talk to anyone. That doesn't mean you have to never know. You can still interact with people as much as you want, as much as you was like, but now you have time set aside for you. Time set aside where you can figure out things about you. That's what I advocate for. Because there's people out there that enjoy doing a lot of things, but they just don't have time to do it. There's people that have hobbies, things that they may not just be skilled at, but just enjoy doing, and that actually feed their spirit and their soul and put a smile on their face and bring them happiness, but they don't ever do it because they're always trying to be around people. They're always following the next big thing, always following the next big trend. There's people out there that have certain talents, and it doesn't have to be something they share with everybody, but certain things that they can actually just enjoy themselves, smile, laugh, feed their spirit and their soul by themselves, okay? Not to say don't hang out with people, that's an aspect of it. But we're focusing on isolations. Those people who have these talents that can bring, food to their spirit and their soul and smile and laugh by themselves, and they don't ever take the time to do that. They just don't ever take the time to do that, okay? So now they're lacking in that area, okay? And not only that, everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a goal. Me personally, I don't like to, focus on, material gain too much, although I understand that there is an aspect of that in life that people need to have where they can take care of the standard necessities, right, in life. But me personally, I don't gain fulfillment out of having a lot of material things, me personally, okay? But I'm not everybody else, so I have to understand that, look, whatever goal that you have, it may be a business. It may be to gain some material. And if it's not that, it may be to be more spiritually connected, to maintain focus, to maintain the straight and arrow path, to maintain the focus on your goals so you can feed the spirit and the soul, okay? That may be what it is. But the thing is, in order to recognize that, in order to realize that, you may need to spend some time in isolation. You may need to spend some time by yourself, okay? And not always having somebody trying to tell you what their plan is, right? And what they feel like would be best for you. And that does not mean not to be able to take criticism. That does not mean Do not be able to take advice. Take criticism that people give you, because it's coming from somewhere. So there's probably something you could take from that and apply it to your life and have a positive outcome and a positive result. But I'm saying that it gets to a point where you have to be able to understand you. Okay, you have to be able to understand you. You have to be able to understand you, okay? And the things that you want. Okay, and it's going to take you taking work on yourself, reflecting on your own life, reflecting on your own situations, and not just situations, reflecting on your current situation and things that you are interested in doing, not only now, but in the future. Whether that's other career paths, other hobbies you like to do that bring you joy, that make you laugh, okay, other experiences you may want to have. It's going to take you. Okay, it's going to take you. And the most important thing is people aren't going to do it for you. And that's not a bad thing at all. People don't need to do it for you. That's not a bad thing at all. People don't need to do it for you, but you have to understand that it's going to take you. That's why I advocate for that isolation now. Dealing with the temptations, all right? Once again, the temptations are a very strong thing. The serpent, code temptations. If that's how you want to look at it, that's just how I'm looking at it right now. Serpent, code, temptations. Once again, serpent, code, temptations. Look, their temptations are going to present themselves multiple times in multiple aspects of your life, okay? And they can be enticing. They can be tempting. To lie. To be jealous. To be envious. Some people believe they have a right to be envious. They have a right to be jealous of someone. Some people believe, well, see, if I could just, but you're not, okay? That's what people have to understand. Some people feel like they do have these rights. You shouldn't do that. And I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying you may be right to do that, but it invites these energies in your life that you don't need. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, okay? I can't control you, okay? People are going to do what they want, but I can just relay the message. People are going to invite these energies into their life, okay, and not understand what they're doing and allow these energies to have a toll on them. Now they're frequently being jealous of other people. They don't even know. Frequently being envious of other people. They don't even really know. They haven't even walked in their shoes. They understand what they've been through, but they're jealous and envious of them, hating on them as if they know that person, but they really don't, okay? So that's just one aspect of it. Let's get into the greed, okay? Greed, that's a big one, okay? Gluttony, okay? Take a break from the plate. To eat a salad, they put the fast food down a little bit. Once again, not for everybody. That's just one aspect, okay? The deceit, okay? And then most importantly, especially for me, one thing I love to focus on is the lust. The lust is absolutely immaculate. And when I say immaculate, I mean that it is something that gets pretty much everyone. Most people cannot handle their lust. Most people cannot handle their lust. When it comes to all the other temptations, they are also just as important. But lust is at the top, in my opinion, because of how strong it is. There's people out there that their lust has derailed their life. There's people out there that their lust has caused them so much strife. There's people out there that their lust has caused them to not be able to sleep at night. I'm telling you, the lust is very deep. Some people can't control it. Some people have to talk to this woman. Some people have to do these things and release their seed. Some people have to sleep with that married woman. Some people have to always comment on someone else's body, a woman's body. Some people have to always give into these thoughts, these different energies. Some people have to do that. Some people don't even have control to understand they don't have to do that. Okay, there's the levels, but people don't understand that. Okay, some people would rather give into it. Okay, some people would rather give into their temptations, give into their lust. Okay, lust has caused a lot of things. Lust has caused broken homes. Lust has caused broken homes because at the end of the day, there's men out there that don't think. They don't think. They get a beautiful woman in front of them. And yes, she's beautiful. Yes, she has the curves. Yes, she has the words. Yes, her hair smells good, looks good, all those things. I'm not denying that, but you need to have self-control because you don't truly understand the weight of the situation. And then they get into a situation they come to find out they were not fully prepared for. Okay? You need to have some self-control. You need to have some self-control. You need to have control over that lust. Okay? You need to have control over that lust for the men out there. Because at the end of the day, there's people, at least in America, let's talk about it. There's men, they don't have self-control over that lust. Then they get into a situation where now the courts are involved, okay? And then the courts are involved because they were married. So it's only natural, right? I'm not mad at it. If you get married or anything like that, there's a child involved and the courts get involved. This is America. This is America. Like, that's just how it goes. So this is what I'm trying to tell you is the courts get involved. Now you're paying child support. The court get involved. Now you're in a custody battle. The courts get involved. Now you're on visitation. Let me tell you something. People that would have control over their lust don't have to worry about that. People that have control over their faculties don't have to worry about that. People that truly have self control. People that truly have control don't have to worry about that. People that truly have discipline. People that truly have discipline, people that truly have discipline and are not out here slinging dilly willy nilly. And for the women, don't have that coochie on a string ready to swing. Don't have to worry about that. Okay. That's when you get involved in the game. And that's when it's a shame. Okay. Because look, a lot of people, they don't have self control over their lust and they want to talk about everybody else but themselves. Look, nimble minds, nimble minds. You're cooking right now. Nimble minds, nimble minds. Can you please expand? Can you please extrapolate this graph that is lust? Absolutely, I can. People would rather look at everything else but themselves. People would rather make a mistake and then be put in a situation where they have an opportunity to delegate their mistakes on to other people that didn't have anything to do with what they did. And they take that instead of looking in the mirror and be like, I didn't have to sleep with this person. I didn't have to have this lust right here. I could have had self-control. And not only that, they didn't have to allow, this is a big one. Because once again, I love to talk about accountability on this channel. I love to talk about accountability on this channel, okay? When we're holding people accountable, I'm holding myself accountable as well. So I'm not just out here telling you something, but I'm not doing it. I'm not just out here telling you something, but I'm not doing it. Let me tell you something. People out here, right, they will let situations change their perspective of people. Let's talk about it. There's people who slept with somebody, had a child with somebody, and then they want to make an excuse. Like they obviously weren't loving that person when they had the child. And then the courts get involved with the child support. And now all of a sudden it's everybody else's fault but the person involved. And I'm going to focus on the men right now because I'm a guy, right? The men out here, they do that. Me personally, I don't agree with that. Okay, yes, is there some situations where the woman is taking advantage? Of course. Of course. But she's not forcing you to do anything to the man, is what I'm telling you. The men out here need to have self-control because they will get in that situation. And then once again, they'll be put in a situation where their options are, I can hold myself accountable. Or because the courts are involved and I understand the likelihood of them giving the custody or maybe just the child support to the woman, I will now use that as my scapegoat to take the pressure off of me. I don't agree with that. Because you need to have self-control. If you had control over your temptations, if you had control on your goal and you were focused on your mission at hand and focused on feeding your spirit and the soul, you would not be in that situation. So once again, there's people out here that need to have some accountability, okay? And understand that, yes, you slept with this person. You may not have intended with having a child, but did you use protection? Let's talk about it. Did you say no to sleeping with her? Let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about it. And not only that, you slept with this person. You must have had feelings for this person, okay? Because I'm not talking about just one night stands. I mean, that's definitely a part of it. Hey, if you out here having kids on a one night stand, that's definitely, you got to do some soul searching. But I'm talking about people that are in relationships with people. You slip up, have a kid, and now all of a sudden it's everybody else's fault but the guy's fault, okay? The women, trust me, the women got their own stuff going on, trust me. The women, trust me, the women got their own stuff going on. Trust me, I understand that. But I'm focused on the guys here because I'm a guy, okay? The women, they do just as much dirt. Trust me, I get it. But I'm focused on the guys right here, okay? For the guys out there, discipline, dingling discipline, okay? Y'all need to stop putting yourself in situations where you're allowing yourself to take all the blame and all the excuses and put it on someone else. If you have control over your lust and your lust that's subtracting from your plus, you wouldn't be in that courtroom to begin with. You wouldn't be having these child support custody battles to begin with. Let's talk about it, because you would have had the self-control to be like, I don't need to be here. I have a goal. Okay, I'm doing things that are feeding my spirit and my soul, and lusting is not one of them. Okay, and that's one aspect of it, temptations. And once again, I focus on that part so hard because lust is a very big temptation. And that's just a common thing that I see, especially on the internet, is just people that get into situations that have to do with their lust. Because it may not always be a child involved or the courts involved. It may not always be that. It could just be somebody's now involved in unnecessary drama because they're out here slinging dilly willy nilly. Now there's people out here that are contracting certain diseases, STIs, STD, because they don't have control over their D. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about, all right? So once again, I'm going to start wrapping this video up. And when I start wrapping this video up, there's two things I got to touch on, okay? The first thing is this. When it comes to not giving into these temptations out here, it's not for everybody. I'm going to say this again. When it comes to not giving into these temptations out here, it's not for everybody. I'm going to say it one more time. When it comes to giving into these temptations out here, it's not for everybody. I'm going to say this again. There's going to be people out there who say it is what it is, and they go back to giving into the temptation. There's going to be people out here that say it is what it is. They go pick up the drink. They go pick back up the blunt. They go back to lying, being jealous, envious, gluttony, deceit, lying, and giving back into the lust that subtracts from their plus. There's going to be people out here that hear this, and they don't even allow themselves to water the seed, to allow the tree to grow some fruit that's going to bear some fruitful things. They don't even allow that. There's going to be people out here that hear this and go, what is this loser talking about? There's people that are going to hear this and say, what is this goofball talking about? There's people that are going to hear this and say, who is this guy think he is? And guess what? Those people are just people at the end of the day. People are going to make their decisions. No one's obligated to change. No one's obligated to live in accordance. No one's obligated to go down a certain path. That's the truth. But you have to understand, there's people that will make that decision. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. There's no jealousy. There's no animosity, no hate, no anger towards them. But for the people out there that do hear this, for the people out there that may watch this, for the people out there, I don't care who you are, what you look like, okay? For the people out there that do hear this, okay, and they go like, you know what? I need to make a change. I'm going to water this seed that's going to grow a tree, that's going to bear some fruitful things. For the people out there that hear this and go like, you know what? He's not the first person to say this. That go like, you know what? Nimble minds. What do you mean you're not the first person to say this? Great question. I'm not the first person to say this. Don't give me that credit. I'm going to say it again. I'm not the first person to say this. Don't give me that credit. There are going to be people out here who say, I've heard this somewhere before. He's not the first person to say this, and he's even telling me he's not the first person to say this. So obviously he's getting it from somewhere. Absolutely. So for the people out there that understand this and go, I'm going to have self-control. I'm not going to give into these temptations anymore. I'm not going to give into the lust that's going to subtract from my plus. I'm not going to give into the envy, the deceit. I'm not going to give into the lying that's going to subtract from me. I'm not going to give into the gluttony, the greed. I'm not going to give into all these things, the lust that subtract. For the people out there that actually are going to change, not just try, but eventually you're going to try and you're going to rise, okay? For the people that are not just going to try, but you're eventually going to try and you're going to rise, okay? That's where we're at, okay? You're eventually going to rise and you're going to actually be doing these things, okay? Once again, I'm not just talking about it. I'm doing these things. So for the people out there that are actually going to start rising, okay, shout out to you. For the people out there that are actually going to start doing these things, shout out to you. That's what's up, okay? Because it's not easy. It's really not easy. It's very difficult. So difficult that most people hear this and get agitated. Most people hear this and would rather just not do it. And that's perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. I advocate for people to be able to make their own decisions. I'm just going to relay the message. But for the people out there that do make a change, for the people out there that understand, wait, there are some things that I can do in these periods of isolation. There are things I enjoy. Okay, there are goals that I have that can feed my spirit and my soul, okay? There are hobbies I enjoy, okay? In these periods of isolation, okay, when I can actually be just by myself. And there's things that I enjoy doing with nobody else, okay? Not to say that you hate people, but for the people out there that are actually doing these things and are not giving into the temptations and are able to actually be truly free spiritually, okay, within your spirit and your soul, thank you. Shout out to you, okay? Shout out to you, because everybody can't do it. Everybody can't do it. I'm going to say it again. Everybody can't do it. Everybody cannot do it. So shout out to the people who are actually, you know what? We're making a change. You know what? We're going to live a life that's in accordance. And not only do that, but you're still going to enjoy life. But now you understand that you can get even more joy out of life. You can even be on a higher enjoyment, a higher plane of enjoying certain things out of life when you're not giving it to the temptations, okay? When you're not lying to get a dopamine hit. When you're not investing in greed and gluttony to get a dopamine hit, when you're not investing in lying to get a dopamine hit, when you're not investing into being jealous and envious to get a dopamine hit, when you're not investing into lust that's going to subtract from your plus to get a dopamine hit. Look, there's a lot of drugs out there. There really is, trust me. There's a lot of drugs out there medically, pharmaceutically, okay, psychiatrically, okay, but them temptations are one of the most potent and deadly drugs. Let me tell you something. Them temptations is one of the most potent and deadly drugs, okay? Them temptations will be having an effect on you running through your system and you're not even aware of it. You out here be engaging in gluttony and deceit, lying and envy, and you don't even know it. And you're getting high off that every day. You'll be out here gossiping, being envious, jealous, giving into lust that's subtracting from your plus, getting high off it every day and not even noticing it, okay? A lot of drugs out there. A lot of drugs that are so discreet, you don't even recognize it. So discreet, you don't even recognize it. Let me tell you something. A lot of drugs out there, very fly under the radar. You don't even recognize it, okay? And them temptations are very, very discreet, okay? So once again, for the people out there that are trying to live in accordance, that are making that change, that are not only trying but now rising, shout out to you, thank you. With that being said, I hope you could take something from this video, apply it to your life. Whoever's watching, whoever's listening, you know, apply it to your life that results in some positive outcome, some positive change, okay? Allows you to rearrange some things. So now you're doing your thing, okay? I really do. I really do. With that being said, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.